The saddest cases on paternity court.
You are her father.
Have a seat. Sit in.
She'll sit in the chair.
I don't care what it say. This man is my father. And you gotta tell me the truth. What is wrong? Tell me. Because I don't know, Precious. I just don't know.
Dads with their daughters' names tattooed are jolly cute. However, if another guy turns up with one, it could cause a paternity stir.
Ms. Andrews, you claim that while at a restaurant recently, you were shocked when Mr. Glenn approached you out of the blue and raised his pant leg to reveal a tattoo of your name on his leg. Now you say he then dropped the bomb that he believes he is your biological father.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Glenn, you confess you kept a 30-year secret because a good family raised Ms. Andrews and you didn't want to interfere with that.
That's right, Your Honor.
You say you now believe you have evidence to prove that you are Ms. Andrews' father and you believe today's DNA results will verify your claim.
That's right, Your Honor.
Well, Miss Andrew was not ready to swallow this huge pill for this reason.
I was raised by the father. My biological father was in my life. I've never known a Mr. Glenn. I don't know him.
You never knew Mr. Glenn?
I knew of him, but I did not know him enough to say, hey, you're my dad, and now all of a sudden. I knew that he was the father of my youngest sister. Supposedly we had different fathers, and it was never a question, never. And
Donna had a great father in her life, and she was not looking for a replacement.
I had a great relationship with my father. Although I did not live in the same household as he came around. He attended family reunions. He done things for me. He was even at my graduation, my high school graduation. He was at my college graduation as well. So, you know, to just run into someone after all those years, to just say that you're my father.
And she got the shock of her life.
I went to a restaurant in Atlanta, a beautiful restaurant, and I run into him. And he revealed to me that I was his daughter. And he showed me the tattoo on his leg. This is the time I'm still grieving over the loss of my father, who passed on my due date of my second child. So as I'm still grieving over this, I run into him to express that he's my father. Now it's bringing more complications, and now I need answers.
But Mr. Glenn had his own reasons for keeping the secret this whole time.
Me and her mother grew up together,
Okay.
raised up together, and we started dating in 1976. And then I left for about 8 months. When I left, Donna was born. She was about 2-3 months old. But she didn't never tell me
But
that
she never came and told you.
that she was pregnant. I asked her about the child, you know, why she didn't tell me, you know, after her cousin don't told me about it. I said, why you do that there, Lisa? And then, but she didn't never give me no answer to it.
Even though Miss Andrew knew who her father was, she was playing along for this reason.
The only reason why I went on and proceeded to see whether or not he was my father, because when I was on a plane one time, it was a guy who claims that he was a psychic, and he was sitting beside me, and he gave me a description of my father, and he said, your father is dark complected, he's muscular built, and he's a very cocky man. Now, when this man approached me and told me this, I'm thinking this guy's delusional on this plane with me because I know the description of my father, and it sure isn't that. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing that made me think of something, I had a cousin out of nowhere in the family, waited till about 6 months before my father passed to say that, you know, Roger is not your father, out of the blue. So now by the time I see him at the restaurant and he showed me the tattoo, I'm like, okay, this is crazy. I need some answers. The family that I grew up with, like, okay, somebody has some answers, what's going on? It actually, when you approached me, Mr. Glenn, it put me in depression. It seems to me like a coward move, it does. You wait till he died, you wait till our mother passed away. We don't have nobody word but your word now. You're only your word,
And the DNA.
and that's unfair.
Next, Donna's stepsister was brought in, and she told the court this.
He is the father of your younger sister. Why not just say I'm also the father
Exactly.
of...
And he is, Roger Andrews is her father. He had opportunity to say this when she was an infant.
Okay.
Before she even established a bond with this family, with the Andrews family.
You have never
Never.
in your life
And I've had
heard anything anything that would suggest that Mr. Glenn...
My mother's side of the family never mentioned this. It was a total shock to me. I just finally accepted that he's the father of my youngest sister.
So why do you think Mr. Glenn is saying this now?
I don't know, and he's never once mentioned to me that he may be Donna's father. Mother and him and Roger, they were all, you know, I'm just gonna say it was the 70s, so nobody was
That's all you have to say, and we understand.
That nobody was being productive, so I understand his point about having her grow up. Why not some kind of notion, or just before she got, who does that? Who lets a person grow up and get grown? And then it's like an insult, a slap in the face to my stepfather who's passed on. To say that after he's died, why didn't he mention it when he was alive so we could get to the bottom of this? Now everybody's passed away, who can we ask?
Right.
It's all hearsay.
But the result had us all blown away.
When it comes to the paternity of Ms. Donna Andrews, Mr. Glenn, you are her father.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Have a seat, sit in.
She'll sit in the chair.
I don't care what it say. This man is my father. The only thing I can thank you for is not causing him the embarrassment when he was alive.
Our eyes are boiling for this down-on-luck sibling duo as they are suing their parents after a hideous argument pointed to promiscuous pasts.
You and your brother, Mr. Hunt, are suing your mother and your father for a paternity test. You claim that just 2 weeks ago they dropped a bomb during an argument. You say in the heat of the moment they inadvertently revealed that it was possible your dad, Mr. Jacobs, is not your biological father. Mr. Jacobs, you say since the time they were babies, you're the only father your children have ever known. So Ms. Razor, tell us about the argument you and your brother overheard.
I started to hear a lot of noise in my mom's bedroom. He coming out the room, going to the kitchen saying, well, those ain't my kids anyway, so I was doing you a favor, and left out the door.
Your mother made a comment that really didn't sit too well with me, and it hurt. You guys didn't hear the whole comment.
It was
So,
out of
Ms.
anger.
Hammonds, you're admitting that in the heat of the argument, you said this statement. You made this statement to Mr. Jacobs that you're not their father anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
But it was just in the heat of the moment, you said.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hammonds, on the other hand, could only add this as initial testimony.
Because maybe he's not your father, Precious.
What
Maybe
you-
he's
what you
not.
mean?
Maybe he's not. I don't know. Maybe he's not.
So what you was doing, Mom?
Please,
Your
Jonathan.
daughter is asking for
Maybe.
clarification.
This is the only man that I know for all my life. He's been there for my kindergarten graduation, my 6th grade graduation. How many men do you know sit in a delivery room with their daughter when they're having a baby? Is there something that you need to tell us? Is there something that you need to tell me?
Maybe. I don't know. I
So-
don't know who's the father. I just don't know. I
Okay.
don't know.
But young Racer was not ready to take any excuses.
No, Precious. I
I'm
know.
getting married in January. He's supposed to walk me down this aisle. And you gotta tell me the truth.
Tell
What
us.
is wrong? Tell me.
Because I don't know, Precious. I just don't know.
That man Tommy, that grandma said that might be my father that I look like, that you denied so many times.
That I overheard at a cookout with some of your friends talking about, don't she look like Tommy, whoever Tommy was.
The whole neighborhood talks about this Tommy person that she's supposed to be dealing with. The whole neighborhood. I've been hearing this for years, but I never doubted the fact that he was my father because he's always been there no matter what.
However, when the other potential father was shown on the screen, both siblings were grossed out.
Were you intimate with Mr.
just
Farmer?
nasty.
Is what he's saying true?
That's
Yes,
Uncle
ma'am.
Tommy. That's just nasty. That's just nasty. That is not my father. That's not my father. No, no,
There's a
no,
possibility I
no.
could be your father.
Do you see
That's
what you did?
crazy.
Just this whole thing
You
tears the whole
sleeping with
family
him?
apart.
You sleeping with him?
So you do admit that you had a sexual relationship with Mr. Farmer
Yes,
around the time Precious was conceived, but you were not having a sexual relationship with him during the time Hector was conceived.
No, ma'am.
Nonetheless, the Play brother had this to say about the situation.
That's not my sister. She's not my sister.
We've established that you all refer to each other possibly as brother and sister, like Play brother. You're not
related biologically. You're not real sister and brother.
He was. I didn't know he existed.
You wasn't
You
supposed
never
to know
knew
I
he
existed.
existed?
No, you're right. I should have known you existed. Look what you're doing to my family.
I didn't do
You know what?
anything to your family.
Say this to you,
It
Mr.
was,
Farmer. I'll
it
say
was
this to you.
already done.
Judge first showed the result of Miss Razor.
Before you do, Your Honor, before we go to any results,
Yes,
I just
sir.
want to do, these are my children right here. Both these are mine. These are my children right here, regardless of what them papers say. They're going to respect their mother and they're going to respect
the whole
me.
time.
It's okay.
And I was wanting to get married in January. And now, after that argument that they had, you know how hard I was looking for somebody to give me a DNA test so I could find out the truth.
In the case of Razor Hunt versus Jacobs Hammond, as it pertains to 26-year-old Precious Razor, Mr. Farmer,
Yes.
you are not
Yes!
her
Oh my God! Oh! Oh my God!
Are you ready for the next result? In the case of Razor Hunt versus Jacob Hammonds, as it pertains to 26-year-old Precious Razor, Mr. Jacobs, you
Are the father.
are not
No!
her father.
No. 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 No, leave me.
And the same bomb dropped on Mr. Hunt, too.
Mr. Jacobs, you are not Hector's father.
Oh, you is scandalous.
It's other
Oh,
Jerome, could you go
is
please see if you could help Mr. Hunt?
scandalous. Oh,
Let me get my kids in.
she is scandalous.
This court is going to take a recess.
But wait, things aren't wrapped up yet, as there was one more shocker to come.
What would you like to tell your son?
I'm not his mother.
What? Are you serious? You're not his mother.
He's my cousin's son. She died at childbirth.
What? So this is not my real brother?
Let me understand this. Wanted him tested.
St. James versus Esau's trial started after a 33-year-old woman sobbing as she could not believe that she was not her dad's daughter.
You claim for the first 33 years of your life, you were a daddy's girl from early childhood all the way through your dad walking you down the aisle. But just 6 months ago, after an argument, your father dropped a bomb on you and said, "You are not my daughter." You and your brother have opened a case to prove paternity today. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Esau, you state you have always believed Miss St. James was not your biological daughter, but could never find the right time to tell her the truth. You state this 33-year-old secret has been haunting you for way too long, and you are ready for the truth to set you free. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Jasmine started off by telling the court how she found out about the paternity doubt.
Right before Christmas, telling him how I felt about him not being in his grandchildren's lives, and that was his response, is the reason why. He didn't answer any of my questions.
That is not true.
He didn't answer my questions. He basically responded 3 days later with the reason why you went through the things you did as a child is because you're not my daughter. That was his response.
That is not what I...
But the alleged father had his own reason to say what he said.
It's something that I've always wanted to talk to her about and tell her, you know, and it just never was the right time.
What did her mother tell you?
She just basically told me she was pregnant.
This was not something you knew for certain?
No, not 100%. I mean, it wasn't 100%,
And
but you know,
that's
the
why
doctors,
he shouldn't have
everybody
never
should have
said
been,
anything. That's why he shouldn't have did this to me. I went to his house every summer, Christmas. You couldn't have me swabbed. You couldn't do anything. All these years, I'm 33 years old.
Even a judge could see how the unfortunate revelation had affected the plaintiff.
I mean, I understand your stress, Miss St. James. I can see it in your eyes, and it truly is
Breaks
palpable.
my heart. Throwing up every day. I have anxiety. I have stress. I have an autistic son that I'm trying to raise. Ever since, I can't eat. I'm losing weight. I'm just torn apart. He just trying to kill me, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna die.
Oh, honey.
Of heartbreak.
Oh, honey. So this has completely rocked you to the core.
Yes, it has.
After this, Mr. Esau told the court how he met his ex-wife.
Can you take us back?
From the beginning, she transferred into the school that I was going to. I seen her that morning, and she looked good. So I'm like, well, everybody's kind of like, wow, who's that? I asked her if she wanted to go to the party, and she said yes. Picked her up, and we, that's when I first had sex, and it just kind of went on from there.
And so you started a relationship?
Yes, yes. Basically, she told me she was pregnant, and I'm like, okay. You're 18, you're like, okay. And it wasn't until the doctor told her how far along she was, and doing the math, it was, before me, So it wasn't like she was cheating on me, because we had just started. She was already pregnant prior to us meeting.
And his mother also backed up his claims.
So you asked your son, when did you meet this young woman?
Right.
And what date did you become intimate? Your son gave you the date, and you determined through the paperwork the window of conception was before when your son claimed he even met Miss St. James' mother. So then for the past 33 years, you've been grandmother. You've been that.
Yes.
And once your son married Miss St. James' mother, they went on to have a family, another son.
Younger Mr. Esau was not ready to trust his father's accusations either.
Your father was not your sister's biological father?
Through my whole life, I thought that Jasmine was my sister. We were out, that's all I've known. As far as, the allegations put upon my mother.
Yes.
It's just like, why now? You had so many other opportunities, and it just feels like that this is out of spite.
And so you believe that truly your father doesn't have any reason to doubt your sister. You believe this is maybe out of anger because she challenged him about his level of involvement in the family and basically said, I need you to do better.
Definitely, and he didn't take that very well.
So, even if Mr. Esau had valid doubts, why wait 33 years?
My dad did call me one time in 2009. He had a little liquor in him. He was crying that Jasmine might not be his.
And what did you say?
I said, what? What are you talking about? What are you talking
and
about?
Called him back and told him I was drunk, and he didn't mean what he said.
Why 33 years? I mean,
it's hard. Like I said, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life, and it's hard. Your mom should have. Your mom was gone. It was my responsibility. Yeah, and I should have. But there's never the right time. It's all, like I said, I always made excuses.
But now it was high time for the truth.
When it comes to 33-year-old Jasmine St. James, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Esau, you are not the father.
I need my mama. I need my mama. I need my mama. That's all I need. Without her, only she knows who she slept with. I appreciate him for raising me and being my daddy, but I'm still hurt.
Xavier's mother is done looking after her son alone and wants Mr. Buckley to step up.
Miss Curtis, you say this court date is extremely important to you. You're here to prove to your ex-fiance, Mr. Buckley, that he fathered your 22-month-old son, Xavier, because his denial has left you homeless and in need of help.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Buckley, you say Miss Curtis is a cheater, and today the test will prove you are not the father. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
So, Miss Curtis, you say today's results mean everything. Explain.
Well, Your Honor, I grew up with a father. I know how important it is to have a father in your life. And Mr. Buckley says it's very important for our child to grow up with a father. And so, with him being in and out of our lives and kicking us out.
Miss Curtis told the court how she was homeless and powerless after giving birth to her child.
With him being in and out of our life and kicking us, not only me, but his son out of his apartment, we landed in a homeless shelter. And I was not known as Champ Press Curtis. I was known as Resident 1625, sleeping in a twin-sized bed with my son.
That's not true. Sharing, did not kick her out.
Sharing everything with other residents in the homeless shelter.
So the judge started with the kicking out part.
You say he kicked you out, Miss Curtis?
He went to his landlord, and his landlord sent me an eviction notice. I had just had surgery.
While Mr. Buckley defended himself like this.
Yes, that is true, Your Honor, but I allowed her to live in my apartment at that time. I was being nice to her. She got mad at me because I was with someone else. I didn't want a relationship with her. She told me she was gonna make my life a living hell while living in my apartment, and that's why I called my landlord.
At this point, did you believe her son, Xavier, was your biological child?
No, Your Honor.
But Mr. Buckley himself had accepted the paternity at first.
Did you think he had accepted that Xavier was his biological child?
Yes. He said he had a little doubt in his mind that when he looked at Xavier, that was his son. That was his child, that he loved our child. He gave him his last name.
Your Honor, I don't think I can have kids for multiple reasons.
It only takes one fast one. One.
I was in a relationship before and we tried to conceive a child. We went to fertility specialists and we were on medicine and kept up with ovulation dates and the whole nine, and it didn't happen. As soon as we separated, she ended up having 2 other children. Not only that relationship, but with the following relationship that I was in.
So you've never believed you could have children?
No, Your Honor.
However, the baby daddy told the judge that he had reasons to doubt.
When she told you she was pregnant, did you believe that there maybe was a miracle and you did father this child?
Not at first, Your Honor, no.
What happened?
As the months continued to go along, I continued to get older and I wanted a child. I accepted Xavier as my child.
I know who I was with when I conceived.
I know who you were with too, and it wasn't just me.
So staying at your house and spending Christmas with you? Who was I having sex with? Your brothers? Your uncle?
No, she told me.
I was supposed to go home for Christmas, and I couldn't afford to go home. So he volunteered for me to spend Christmas with him and his family.
Your Honor, she also told me she had sex with someone while she was pregnant.
Miss Curtis explained that Mr. Buckley was with him through the whole birth process.
I was in labor for 13 and a half hours. Mr. Buckley was with me for the whole 13 and a half hours. I have pictures of him at the hospital. I ended up having to have an emergency C-section because little Xavier's oxygen level dropped and he was in distress. And they took me in for an emergency C-section and my mom came with me. And when I woke up and they wheeled me by the nursery to see him, Mr. Buckley was standing there with tears running down his face. That was the moment that I fell in love with Mr. Buckley. He'd been standing there since he came into the nursery until I got rode to my room about 2:30. That's a couple hours him standing there just looking at our beautiful son.
Something that I don't think is possible, Your Honor.
But in this photo, it doesn't look like, I see tears in your eyes, Mr. Buckley.
It's impossible to describe. There's no way to put it into words. Like I said, I don't think I can have kids. I've been there, I tried, and my heart and my mind are at a constant battle. My heart wants him to be, but my mind knows better. What you see right there is my heart.
If your mind knew better, why did you sign the birth certificate?
Because of my heart.
Mr. Buckley had even one very close witness on his side.
This right here, Your Honor, this is my house, my back door. And this is Mrs. Curtis' front door. We were friends. We've been friends. I told her, I see you. When we found out she was pregnant, she had a boyfriend. He passed away. They were together. And mind you, there were other men.
I lived at the top of a hill. She lived at the bottom.
This is my house, and this is hers. She knows, and she done came and confided in me and told me about the other guys. I see men coming out of this door, and her
How?
running
When
up
I don't
there,
even use that
and
door.
her running up to the Africans up at the other apartments up top.
The Africans I was teaching English to because he came from Africa and didn't speak English.
That is a lie.
He didn't speak English.
He spoke English to me.
Thank you so much for your testimony, ma'am.
Let's get to the results.
When it comes to 22-month-old Xavier Buckley, it has been determined by this court, Mr. Buckley, you are not his father.
I wasn't with anybody else.
Obviously you were with someone else.
Jesus, Lord.